Yo guys, how you doing? Marlon King here, and this week I'm going to be talking about my new camera, the Sony A6500. Yes, after a year of video creation, I finally managed to upgrade my camera, and I upgraded from the Canon 70D. In this video I'm going to be talking all about that. I'm going to be showing you some photos that I've taken. I'm going to be talking about some of the frustrations that I've had switching from Canon to Sony, and maybe how you can overcome them. And pretty much if you're looking to do this upgrade, or you're just interested in purchasing the Sony A6500, it's worth sticking around and watching this video. Alright guys, you can imagine my excitement the other day when I had the parcel turn up. I unboxed it and here was the camera, and you can imagine how I felt when I found out that the lens wasn't going to be delivered till the following day. So that was fun and games, but I managed to just about contain myself, and here it is, it's finally arrived. And if you watched my previous video and my review on the Canon 70D, you'd have seen at the end I talked about some of the perfect cameras to upgrade to if you already had the 70D, and I did conclude that it was either this one or the A7 III that would be the best choice, purely based on features. And so seeing as the Sony A7 III was nearly £2,000 without lens, I decided to go for this little puppy. And first thoughts, really good camera. It was a lot smaller than I imagined. Here it is now, and it's quite small. I'll do a little zoom in a second, but as you can see, very nice, fits in the hand really well, and actually, although it is quite small, it's also slightly heavier than I was expecting, but I guess it's because it's so similar in size to my G7X. It's only a dash bigger really, but of course it's got a bit more inside it going on, so that's why the extra weight. But all in all, it is definitely a lot more portable than the 70D. I was actually surprised when I put it in my camera bag, it just kept on going in, and there was a big gap above it and each side of it, so I'm going to have to re-customize that bag, but that was exactly what I was hoping. In actual fact, this fits in some of my smaller camera bags now, so I can go back to the old days and have a little smaller camera bag, and it makes taking a camera around a lot easier. Just as a quick test, I've set this camera up with the exact same settings as I currently have on my G7X Mark II, which is a 50 shutter speed, f1.8, actually it's f1.7 on here, I can't get f1.8 directly, and ISO 320. So let's quickly switch over and see what it looks like. Right guys, so this is switched over to the Sony. I have no idea whether it's in focus because I can't see the screen, it's not a flip screen, but hopefully it is in focus, and hopefully if I move my hand, that doesn't trick the autofocus. It's on default settings, I haven't changed any of the color profiles at the moment. I'm going to have to play around with that over time, but hopefully that gives you a good comparison against the Canon G7X Mark II. Now, talking of first impressions, when it come to using this camera and setting it up, this was where I come across my first frustrations. And quite simply, whilst this is touchscreen, it doesn't really feel like it. I think it was a very quick add-on from Sony, and it's a little bit disappointing really, considering my Canon 70D had touchscreen and that was released in 2013. This was released end of 2016, I believe in November, and pretty much the only thing you can do with it is your focus points, which is a great feature to have, but after you've come from Canon, and they've got just a wonderful menu system. I mean, Canon are pretty much the Apple of cameras, and when it comes to using this menu system, immediately you go to touch a screen, it doesn't work. And also I quite often found myself twisting the little dial here, the little wheel, and that doesn't work in the menu systems either, so you literally have to push it like an old NES pad from the 1980s. But that said, one of the pros of this camera is all of the features they've got added in. This is pretty much the equivalent of a developer camera. They haven't removed any of the options that they put in when they was trialing the camera. They've just left them all there, and you've got menus and menus full of different options that you can try out. And from that point, it does mean that you've got a lot more flexibility to try out different things. Some of the particular modes, like 120 frames per second, was one of the main features I was looking at. And also this does 4K, another reason to upgrade. So far so good, but yes, the menus were a little bit frustrating. Outside of setup, when you're talking about changing settings for taking photos out on the go, you are a bit back to the old school where you have to memorize all the buttons, which ones do what, because again, you can't do the touchscreen, which just really does make life a little bit too easy. When I first started taking photos on the camera, it had a very loud beep, and I was surprised to see that I couldn't actually find an option to turn it off. So that was a little bit frustrating. However, in the end, I've managed to find the option. It was hidden in one of the menus. As I said, they've got loads and loads of menus. The viewfinder seems okay, seems very clear. It's my first experience using a digital viewfinder. It's not as good as the real thing, but it's certainly better than not having one, and it coming quite useful when in bright light. Now, if you've done any sort of research on this camera, you'll know that the screen brightness is one of its downfalls. Actually, my G7X has a lot better screen on it, and quite frankly, when it was bright sunlight, I just couldn't see what I was doing at all. I knew this from all the reviews that I'd read, but I can confirm that is the case. However, the viewfinder did help me out on those situations. Now, when it come to video, my first clip that I tried when I got the camera, I was a little bit disappointed because it didn't even focus on my face, but I'm going to take that as a learning curve. I do need to start using this camera a little bit more, and once I work out how to set it up and get it to focus as I need, I should be good to go. Another thing coming over from Canon, a lot of the lenses have a manual focus, autofocus switch on the lens. Now, this is a Sigma lens, but it seems on the Sony cameras you do not get that switch, and I was quite baffled how to manual focus when I've got this massive big manual focus ring here, but it didn't seem to be doing anything. However, it appears that there's this autofocus manual focus button here on the back, and if you hold that down, you can then adjust the focus manually as you need, and you'll actually find that if you look at the display, it zooms in so you can get a more accurate focus, which is quite a nice feature. However, if you are quite close to your subject, you'll find maybe less useful, but all in all, at least you can manual focus, because I was wondering what was going on initially. So now let's jump straight onto the computer and have a look at some of the photos that I took over the weekend. Right guys, so this was one of the first photos I took on the camera, and it's worth noting that obviously the lens complements the camera, so I was using the Sigma 30mm f1.4. We can see with this shot at f1.4 the other guitars are out of focus, they're about 60 centimeters away, and we can see on this guitar is still nice level of detail down there on the bridge. Moving on to this shot, this was also taken at f1.4. We're slightly closer to the guitar now. We can see what a small level of precision you've got when you're using f1.4. The whole of the neck is out of focus, as is the bridge, and just that one little point there, it is in focus and looks pretty sharp, but that's a difficult image to tell. So this one at the weekend was taken at sunset, or a little bit before. It's actually golden hour, and whilst it is a little bit overexposed, I mean that can be fixed in the raw file, but when we look here we can see there is a lot of detail in the face and in the hair. It's just very sharp overall. I'm really impressed with the image quality of this. And then finally moving on to this shot of me looking rather moody because I forgot my sunglasses. However, when we zoom in, I'm just really impressed with the level of detail, in particular how sharp my eyes are. If we look in there, my eyes are very sharp, and in general detail all over the face, so just very impressed with that photo. The camera's on default color settings, and I haven't adjusted any of the sharpness settings on the camera, so this is just straight out of the box. When it comes to the memory card, I took the memory card straight from my old camera. I wiped it on the PC, put it straight into this camera. It didn't even ask me to format it, just started using it straight away, which was great. And After doing some photos over the weekend, I took about 480 photos and I shot them in both RAW and JPEG, and that come to nearly, well, actually just over 13 gigabytes worth of data. So that's approximately 24 megabytes per RAW file and between 3 and 8 megabytes per JPEG file. So be warned, the file sizes are big, but that's standard these days. Right guys, that's my first impressions on the Sony A6500. I hope you found the video helpful, especially if you're considering purchasing the camera in future. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future content. Plan to keep you updated with this camera, especially as I keep on going with it. I've currently only got one lens as well, it's prime, so if I buy any more lenses, I'll let you know how I get on with them and what I've purchased. Have a good week guys, and I'll catch you same time next time. Peace.